This week, as part of Fooding's pre-production, we interviewed Ignacio Medina, the Spanish culinary critic with Peruvian soul, as he says, and for me, the greatest connoisseur about Peru and Latin American cuisine. We talked about Peruvian cuisine, ingredients, designation of origin, of everything, but above all, we talk about how can we generate an impact from the kitchen and through the production of ingredients in the field, to the producers, the farmers, in those who have the future of food in their hands and are the future of Peru.
Look, I think that the beginning of all this is the hot cuisine. Today we have to understand the dynamics of market. The food market and the gastronomy restoration market is an inspirational and pyramidal shaped market. And consumers' fashions are created above all, which is the smallest market. And then they are opening. For example, if a high-level restaurant values the chili pepper, the average restaurants are going to want to have it, and the less average restaurants are going to want to have it too. And in the end, it will end up appearing in the retail markets, because the consumer starts asking for it. And there is where the trends and dynamics are created.
And talking with Ignacio, I realized what Fooding's role was here. What is the role of a documentary that seeks to project this idea internationally? And it is simple, the role I mean. It's about gaining time. It is about making things happen faster. Instead of taking 100 or 200 years, would take 5 or 6 years. Today, with networks, with this interconnected world, everything is possible. What took 100 years to convert General Motors into the largest company in the world took 10 years to Google or Netflix.
We have made great progress over the last 10 years, but it is a very slow process. And the problem is that the social process and generational development in the field is not so slow.
And I don't want to beat about the bush, but it is here that everything comes together. Because what is the point of having a super agri-industry or being the first fish meal exporters in the world if we cannot generate a positive impact for everyone?
In 20 years, there will be a new generation. That new generation will not want to live like their parents in a cabin at 10,000 feet of altitude, without electricity or cooking on the floor at the door of their house. In a house in which everything smells of smoke, in which to go to charge a cell phone you have to go down 800 meters, where to go to watch a football game of television you have to walk 3 hours.
In Fooding, we always use the example of Manuel Choque, who is a potato farmer from Cusco, who has managed to produce Andean potatoes full of antioxidants. He is selling those potatoes at 7 times the average market price. So, I comment about this story with Ignacio and ask him this question. Then, going back to the potato metaphor, if this producer could sell this potato at, let's say, 10 euros, would that change it all?
Well, if I could sell it for $3 or $4, of course it would change radically. But the big problem of the farmer, and the potato shows it, is that we do not understand that the producer has to live with dignity of that work. And if we don't get it, we are making mistakes, and we are failing the producer, and we are creating a model that is not real, that is based on a guy that in 2, 3 or 10 years will die or be older and will not be able to work the field.
It would be sad, but it really doesn't have to be that way. We have it all.
Today, the great advantage that a country that takes care of its products have is that when you work in a product of high quality and little production, you can achieve very high value-added markets. Because there is a market willing to pay much more for a chicken raised in a field running and fed with corn. It is willing to pay much more for a fish caught with a fish hook and taken out of the sea and sold tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and is willing to pay much more for a vegetable grown in season. So This is what we have to look at. This is like tourism. What do I want to have? I want to have a city like Cusco, full of backpackers and gentlemen who grab your arm down the streets to hire you a massage, a tour, to sell you a necklace, asking for alms, offer you a cousin, or I want to have a tourism that leaves $10,000 between two people in the city.
I like the analogy of tourism, but I disagree a little bit with Ignacio. And is that I think that we can have both models, as in fact we have it in tourism. Maybe we could increase tourism for $5,000 per head, for sure. And at the same time, we could improve mass tourism, because we know how luxury tourism works. It's what makes the destination attractive, and what makes that a lot of products and services created for mass tourism also have an exit. And this is surprisingly what we have to search also in the food market. See how finally the whole idea works.
What is our spearhead? Quality. And quality are not large productions. They are small productions, and those small productions are going to pull the others. If I want to give value to the producer, I will always talk about small productions. And then there will be the Benavides and all these that will have their large plantations in Trujillo, La Libertad, and they will grow 20,000 hectares of piquillo peppers, and they will flood the world with cans of piquillo peppers. Great! But there is a problem with our piquillo pepper. You go to a supermarket in Madrid, and the Spanish one is worth 10, and the Peruvian 1.
And it's the same problem that Raimondi identified more than 100 years ago, that we are poor people, but sitting in a golden bench. That's it. We don't even know the value of what we have. Humbly, in fooding, we are looking for answers.
How will I sell Peruvian piquillo peppers as an emblematic product in a country when that country does not have a single receipt with a piquillo pepper? How am I going to sell the Navarro artichoke that is now being cultivated in Chincha, the small one, the tasty one, in a country where it is not consumed? How am I going to sell green asparagus? In how many restaurants in Peru have you seen green asparagus in the last year?
But look, of course we sell them, and it has been a challenge and a great achievement to get here. Now we have to go for more value, associating all the ingredients that we can produce to these great stories of Peruvian cuisine, to the stories of its farmers, of their recipes, of their traditions.
If there is no identity, how can we associate it with Peru? Actually, the producers, the sellers, and the manufacturers of canned asparagus, from Navarra or the piquillo pepper, are also the ones who do it, or buy it from here and label it there, and put Peru in small print so that it is not seen. In the end, there is no real identification.
What would have to happen to the Peru brand that put it in large in that jar makes the price rise? That already works with some of our products. It works for ceviche, for example, and this is partially worthwhile for the Peru brand. But the Peru brand has to go from the design screens of the Atman to the pots, the tables, and the mouse. You have to feel it, you have to live it. Maybe if you see Peru large in that can, and that reminds you of those stuffed peppers, I don't know, a la guaracina, that you ate during your trip to Peru, or in the Tanta restaurant in Madrid, maybe you will associate it with a pleasant experience, to a recipe that you want to repeat at home, and then maybe you can buy the jar. Maybe we can start there. And for me, that is fooding. The future of food and the role of Peru.